Hello and welcome to my channel, Bit Slavery with Racha. My name is Racha Hafar, and today I have my very good friend, and he's the guest speaker with us today. Arun will be talking to us about a very interesting, specific type of human trafficking that doesn't really have a lot of attention, and that's why I have him here with us today. Arun, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Arun Dohle. I'm Director of Against Child Trafficking. And I'm working on the issue of adoption trafficking since like 99, 2001. And I started that with trying to find out my own parents because I'm myself adopted. So from that search, I uncovered all the scandals in the trafficking and the kidnapping of children, the fabrication, the falsification of paperwork, the money involved, and that there was no consent. And later I figured out that there's something really wrong with policy. So it's a long journey. And indeed, trafficking, specifically in the adoption, specifically in the US, is not considered trafficking at all.
How is that?
Because basically the US definition needs this element of exploitation, and the argument is that the adoptive parents are not exploiting the child, you know?
Until they prove it, right?
Well, no, it's even not. I mean, you can't even prove it because they actually go through a home study process. So the intent is not to exploit the child, even if the child gets later exploited, but the intent is not. So, so it is maybe sale of children, but not adoption not trafficking.
So tell us more about this, like educate us about this, because it's something that we don't really hear a lot about, even when we watch and we learn about stuff related to human trafficking. The focus is always on sex trafficking, it's always on labor trafficking, but we do not really get into this. So talk to us more about it. Your focus, where is your focus? Which countries do you focus on? And how do you do your work?
Basically, we focus globally because we work a lot on the European level, which is the most powerful administration and the most powerful government after the United States. So that actually has a big impact if we do change things there and we managed. Then we, of course, worked in India, filed cases, litigated, and assisted victims, adoptees, parents, and even adoptive families. We've been fighting, advocating with the government there. We have been working in Ethiopia, have done field research on that, uncovered huge trafficking, which is all covered up to date. Of course, we have been working, exposing it in Belgium, Denmark, and France, and Spain, and whatever, even the US. But we also have worked on China, uncovered the trafficking there, Malawi, of course, Romania, a little bit of Bangladesh. So, I mean, it's just really crazy. And the basic problem is, if we talk about child rights, is, and I'm not going to explain it in details here, but there are two conventions. One is the 1989 Convention on the Rights of the Child, which essentially sets out a broad norms on children's rights, covering almost everything. Mm-hmm. And it also limits inter-country adoption very heavily. It basically is, it's like, adoption is not a child protection measure. And under this convention, continuity is the thing for the children. And of course, the state has to set up alternative care, and it should be okay. And, inter-country adoption is only permissible if there's no other suitable manner of care in the country. That means really that has nothing. I mean, there should be anything. So obviously in China, Ethiopia, or other countries, there's care. So these adoptions are illegitimate under the UNCRC because all local care comes before inter-country adoption. I mean, it's a very drastic thing to send a child out of the country, right? So, but in 1993, there came a new convention. It's a Hague Adoption Convention that talks suddenly about permanency, and that adoption is a child protection measure. And foster care and residential care comes subsidiary, I mean, after adoption, and also after inter-country adoption. So you have a perverse system now where everything is centered around adoption. Foster care and residential care are supposedly per se bad because they're not permanent. So we essentially have only adoption. So that is actually the Hague Convention. You try to reintegrate the child with the family. If that doesn't work, you terminate the parental rights and you put it on the adoption market. And that is legalized child trafficking, actually.
So what would be the alternative, though? If like, I mean, if we don't want to put the kids in for adoption, what would be the alternative? Who's going to be taking care of them?
Yeah, the state is obliged, no, under Article 20 and under the Constitution and whatever, the states are obliged to set up proper care. And there's foster care and residential care. Of course, I mean, everybody thinks these institutions are orphanages, you know, the horrible orphanages. But listen, I mean, I think we're over that time. And why do we have social workers in universities? You know, I mean, if the social workers cannot run a residential care unit of the family type homes of 8 children, then maybe we should just do away with the whole profession altogether. I mean, honestly, yeah, of course it's expensive. Yeah, family type homes are expensive, but yeah, that's life. Those are children's rights.
But you know, like human trafficking doesn't happen to all the kids that are adopted. So,
well, I mean,
where's the thin line? Like, where do we separate between something that is good and that is bad?
Well, as I said before, this is a very gray area because the US argues none of the children have been trafficked.
Sorry?
It's a matter of definition. The United States argues none of the children.
I lost you. Sorry. Just a second, I'm losing you.
The United States has not ratified.
Yeah,
the United States has not ratified the UN Convention on the Right of the Child. So the US has a totally different view on children's rights than the rest of the world.
Yeah. But this is something that's not only in the US though, right?
Well, it's only the US.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So what can you do and others do who are working in human trafficking? How can they extend their services to also start working on this type of trafficking?
Well, to be honest, knowing the NGO world is just really about money and where money is being spent. And since it's not considered trafficking, there's not a single euro available for funding, essentially to work on these issues. So if there's no money available, what do you want to do?
So what if the work focuses on, instead of, if the prevention is hard, what if the rescue then becomes, you know, the most visible and the most easiest part that you can actually prove, so you can get the money for, so that you can do it?
No, I mean, adoption, I mean, try rescuing a child from adoption. It's difficult because, you know, I just assume the children are better off with their adoptive families, and the adoption is not going to be undone. And there's a whole, I mean,
even
it's
if
very complicated.
You find proofs that the families are exploiting their kids, because you can find proof in situations where it's actually visible.
You have to differentiate two things. One is that the families are mistreating the children, let's say physical violence, or the families or the children were kidnapped, let's see. You know, this may be two different things. So I actually think that if a family, an adoptive family who has adopted a kidnapped child, does not establish contact with the original family, I also think that's child abuse.
Yeah.
You see? So even though the child may not have been physically hit, okay?
Yeah.
So, but you can't do anything about that. So what we can only do is assist the adoptees, the adult adoptees, with the searches. You know, that's the only thing we can do, and we can try to prevent adoptions from happening in the first place, and to try to advocate for the implementation of the UN Convention on the Right of the Child.
And what would you say today to youth activists who are trying to get involved in this cause, yet they view it as, you know, something that's complex and unreachable and far-fetched?
Who's saying it? I didn't get to the beginning.
So for me as a youth activist, I have...
Youth activist, okay.
Yeah, youth activists, yeah. So I have realized that, you know, the human trafficking cause is still not something that the youth have access to work on. In so many places in the world, it's seen very dark, very dangerous, very complex, and the youth force has not yet entered into this sphere of fighting human trafficking. So what do you suggest for more youth to get involved, to believe that this cause touches their livelihoods? It's not just something that is far-fetched from reality. It's our realities. It's happening in our neighborhoods, in our houses. How do you,
No, I know, I get your point. Get your point. I mean, point is that on our website, there are a lot of documentaries, and people can actually contact me. Some are not there. We also have a YouTube channel against child trafficking videos. It's not very well sorted, but you know, there are so many documentaries being made based on our work and based on the issue that actually, yeah, I think people really have to take the time, and I can't help that with that, and watch it, and then it becomes visible. And then when you watch it, you can also identify it very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, it's like once you've seen some of the patterns, you identify it very quickly when next time you talk to an adoptive family who has adopted from China, right?
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any final thoughts, any advice, any suggestions for our viewers today?
Yeah, I really would like to keep in mind the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, read up on that, and just really keep it in mind and question, why didn't the US ratify it?
Yeah.
And what does it do for the rest of the world? And keep it always in mind, UN Convention on the Right of the Child. It's actually a binding international law, but it's one of the biggest problems we have, that it is essentially the US foreign policy which undermines it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Arun, for being with us today. This was really an eye-opening, even for me, because my work does not, you don't really find how to access such a sphere of working on and expanding, the work on human trafficking to have these types of trafficking to be involved. So thank you so much for educating us today. And to our viewers, if you have any questions or comments to us, please use the Q&A section below in the comment section, and we will be happy to answer your questions. And we'll see you soon in another video. Have a good day.